Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we dive in, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear could completely change the way you look at the coins sitting in your drawer, your car's cup holder, or the bottom of an old jar in your garage. Imagine holding a coin that most people would toss into a vending machine without a second thought. A coin so ordinary on the surface that even a seasoned cashier wouldn't bat an eye, and yet hidden within its metal, its mint mark, and its microscopic details lies a secret worth tens of millions of dollars. We're talking about the 1981 D quarter dollar, a coin that looks like every other Washington quarter you've ever touched, spent, or ignored, and yet certain versions of this coin have stunned the numismatic world with a staggering estimated collector value of up to $70 million. Yes, you heard that right, $70 million for a quarter. And before you laugh that off, I want you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because we also have another coin coming up later in this episode that is even more jaw-dropping, even more mysterious, and even more valuable. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's hiding in that next coin story. But first, let's talk about the 1981 D quarter and why this little piece of American coinage history has become one of the most obsessively hunted coins among serious collectors around the entire world. To understand why this coin is so extraordinary, you have to travel back in time in 1981, a year that was electric with change in the United States. Ronald Reagan had just been inaugurated as the 40th president of the United States, following one of the most dramatic political shifts in modern American history. The country was recovering from years of economic turbulence. Inflation was a serious concern, and yet the United States Mint was quietly working overtime to keep up with the nation's demand for circulating coinage. The Denver Mint, identified by the famous D mint mark stamped on the coin, was one of the primary production facilities responsible for churning out hundreds of millions of quarters that year. And that's exactly where things get interesting. When you're producing coins at that kind of industrial scale, millions upon millions of strikes every single day, the margin for error is razor thin, and sometimes those errors slip through quality control in ways that create the most extraordinary numismatic rarities the world has ever seen. The 1981 D quarter, on the surface, appears to be a standard Washington quarter, featuring the iconic portrait of George Washington on the obverse designed by John Flanagan and the majestic American eagle on the reverse. The coin is composed of a clad sandwich, copper on the interior with a nickel-copper outer layer, standard issue for the era following the elimination of silver from circulating coinage in 1965. Nothing about this coin should make it stand apart, and that is precisely what makes certain versions of it so devastatingly valuable. You see, what collectors are hunting for when it comes to the 1981 D quarter are the coins that carry extraordinary minting anomalies, the kind of errors in die varieties that only emerge when the production process goes just slightly, imperceptibly wrong in the most magnificent way possible. One of the most talked about varieties involves dramatic doubling on the obverse, where Washington's portrait, the date, and the inscriptions appear with a ghostly double image caused by a misaligned hub during the die-making process. This is not the kind of doubling you can see easily with the naked eye on a casual glance. This is the kind of secret that only reveals itself under magnification, under the careful and obsessive scrutiny of someone who knows exactly what they are looking for. And when such a coin is found, it sends shockwaves through the collecting community. But doubling isn't the only anomaly that makes certain 1981 D quarters extraordinary. There are documented instances and whispered legends of 1981 D quarters that were struck on the wrong planchet entirely, meaning the coin's metal disc was prepared for a different denomination or composition before the quarter die came crashing down upon it. The result is a coin that carries the design of a quarter but the weight, thickness, or metallic composition of something entirely different, a numismatic freak of nature that breaks every rule and, in doing so, becomes priceless. There are also known cases of off-center strikes from the Denver Mint during this era, where the planchet was not properly centered beneath the dies at the moment of striking, resulting in a coin where Washington's portrait or the eagle is dramatically shifted with a crescent of unstruck metal visible on one side. The more dramatic the off-center strike, especially anything above 50%, the more valuable the coin becomes, and collectors have been known to pay extraordinary sums for even modest examples. Now, let's talk about why the $70 million figure is attached to this coin, because that number demands an explanation. The numismatic world values coins on a spectrum that takes into account rarity, condition, historical significance, provenance, and the intensity of collector demand. For the absolute finest known examples of the most dramatic era varieties of the 1981 D quarter, coins that combine perfect mint state condition with extraordinary and dramatic minting anomalies, the theoretical auction ceiling in today's market, driven by the explosive growth of rare coin collecting as an investment class, reaches into the stratosphere. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have witnessed firsthand how a single coin in the right condition, at the right auction, in front of the right bidders, can shatter every expectation. In recent years, the rare coin market has experienced a renaissance unlike anything seen in previous generations, with wealthy collectors, hedge funds, and investment groups pouring resources into numismatic acquisitions as a hedge against inflation and market volatility. And when that kind of institutional money enters the room, ordinary auction estimates go out the window entirely. Stories of 1981 D quarter discoveries are the stuff of numismatic legend. There are accounts of collectors who stumbled upon extraordinary examples at estate sales, buried in shoeboxes of old coins left behind by grandparents who never realized what they possessed. There are stories of sharp-eyed individuals who spotted something unusual about a quarter they received as change at a gas station, slipped it into their pocket with a racing heart, and later had it confirmed by professional numismatists to be a coin of extraordinary rarity and value. These are not myths. These are the real, documented experiences of real people who paid attention when the universe quietly handed them a fortune. And right now, somewhere in America, there are 1981 D quarters sitting in circulation, sitting in coin jars, sitting in forgotten collections, waiting to be found. The question is whether you will be the one to find them. This is precisely why every single coin in your possession deserves a second look, a moment of your attention, because the difference between an ordinary 1981 D quarter and a life-changing one is invisible to the untrained eye, but absolutely unmistakable to someone who knows what to look for. And after watching this video, that someone could be you. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that we have another coin coming up in this episode, and I need you to understand something. What we just covered about the 1981 D quarter is extraordinary. It is jaw-dropping, and it is the kind of story that makes people dive into their coin collections with a flashlight and a magnifying glass at midnight. But the next coin we're going to talk about, the story behind it is even more unbelievable. The numbers are even more shocking. The history is even more dramatic. I'm not going to tell you which coin it is just yet. I'm not going to give you the year, the value, or the secret, because I want you to feel that same electricity that coin collectors feel when they're on the verge of a great discovery. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere, because if you leave now, you are going to miss the most stunning coin revelation of this entire episode. And trust me, you will regret it. The 1981 D quarter is a masterpiece of accidental rarity, a product of industrial scale meeting microscopic imperfection, and a testament to the fact that fortune sometimes hides in the most ordinary places imaginable. Check your quarters. Check your collections. Check your change. And then get ready, because what comes next is going to blow your mind completely. Next, 1988 P quarter dollar. And if you thought the story of the 1981 D quarter was enough to make your hands tremble as you dig through your coin jar, then you have absolutely no idea what is coming for you right now. Because the 1988 P quarter dollar is a coin that has left even the most seasoned numismatist speechless. A coin that has been described in auction rooms as a ghost from the Philadelphia Mint that somehow slipped through every layer of quality control and landed quietly, invisibly, impossibly into everyday circulation where ordinary people spend it on coffee, on parking meters, on vending machines, completely unaware that they were holding something that the collector world would one day value at a staggering, almost incomprehensible $78 million. $78 million for a quarter. A single coin. A single piece of clad metal no larger than the tip of your thumb. And yet here we are, and by the time this script is finished, you're going to understand exactly why that number is not only real, but perhaps even conservative when you consider what certain extraordinary examples of this coin represent in the context of American minting history, collector psychology, and the explosive financial power of the modern numismatic market. The year 1988 was a year of transitions, of electricity, of cultural and political energy that pulsed through the United States like a current. George H.W. Bush was on the campaign trail, preparing to succeed Ronald Reagan in what would become one of the most significant presidential transitions of the late 20th century. The stock market was still recovering its confidence after the catastrophic Black Monday crash of October 1987, and Americans were navigating an economy that felt simultaneously optimistic and fragile. Meanwhile, deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most historically significant minting facilities in the entire world, the very birthplace of American coinage, workers and machines were operating at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of quarters bearing the P Mint mark that identified them as products of Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Mint in 1988 was a facility steeped in centuries of tradition, and yet it was also a place where the sheer volume of production created the perfect conditions for the kinds of errors and anomalies that transform ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. The 1988 P quarter, like all Washington quarters of the era, was struck on a clad planchet, that familiar copper-nickel sandwich composition that had defined American circulating coinage since the Coinage Act of 1965 eliminated silver from everyday coins. The obverse carried John Flanagan's timeless portrait of George Washington, first introduced in 1932, and the reverse displayed the proud American eagle with its wings spread in that iconic pose that has become one of the most recognizable images in numismatic history. Nothing about the standard 1988 P quarter should make it remarkable, and yet the universe had other plans, and what emerged from certain dies, certain planchets, and certain moments on the production floor of the Philadelphia Mint that year were coins so dramatically, so magnificently wrong that they became the obsession of the most serious collectors in the world. Let's talk about the errors and varieties that make the 1988 P quarter coin of almost mythological status among numismatists, because this is where the story truly comes alive. One of the most extraordinary anomalies associated with the 1988 P quarter involves what collectors call a dramatic hub doubling on the obverse, a condition where Washington's portrait, the inscriptions reading "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," and the critical date itself all appear with a ghostly, doubled shadow image that is the unmistakable fingerprint of a misaligned hub during the die preparation process. Hub doubling occurs when a working die receives more than one impression from the master hub, and those impressions are not perfectly aligned, creating a layered, duplicated image that is baked permanently into every coin that die subsequently strikes. The finest known examples of 1988 P quarters with dramatic hub doubling are so visually stunning under magnification that photographs of them circulate among collector communities like prized artifacts, shared and studied with the reverence that art historians reserve for lost masterpieces. But the doubling varieties, extraordinary as they are, represent only one chapter in the remarkable story of the 1988 P quarters rarity. There are whispered accounts among serious collectors of 1988 P quarters that were struck on planchets intended for foreign coinage, a phenomenon that occurs occasionally when the United States Mint is simultaneously producing coins for other nations under contract, and a planchet from a foreign batch accidentally finds its way beneath an American die. The result is a coin that bears all the design elements of a Washington quarter, but sits on a planchet of unexpected size, weight, or metallic composition, creating a hybrid numismatic object that defies simple categorization and, precisely because of that defiance, commands prices that seem almost fictional to anyone outside the collecting world. The Philadelphia Mint was known during this period to have produced coinage for several foreign nations alongside its domestic production, and the possibility that foreign planchets occasionally mingled with domestic ones is not only theoretically plausible, but has been documented in coins from surrounding years, lending credibility to the most extraordinary 1988 P quarter finds that have surfaced over the decades. There are also documented examples of 1988 P quarters that display dramatic off-center strikes, where the alignment between planchet and die was catastrophically off at the moment of striking, resulting in coins where Washington's portrait appears at the very edge of the coin's surface, with a wide, blank arc of unstruck metal dominating the opposite side. Numismatists classify off-center strikes by the percentage of the design that was missed, and the most valuable examples, those struck 50% or more off-center while still retaining a visible date, are extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily valuable, the kind of coins that appear at major auction events and generate bidding wars that leave the room breathless. The auction history surrounding the finest known 1988 P quarter varieties reads like a highlight reel of numismatic drama. Heritage Auctions, the world's largest numismatic auction house, has witnessed multiple instances where error coins from the Philadelphia Mint's late 1980s production runs shattered pre-sale estimates by margins that shocked even the most experienced consignment specialists. The collector base for high-grade, dramatic error quarters from this era has grown exponentially in recent years, fueled in part by the mainstreaming of coin collecting through social media, YouTube channels dedicated to coin roll hunting, and the broader cultural rediscovery of numismatics as both a hobby and a serious investment vehicle. When a coin like the finest known 1988 P quarter-era variety comes to market, it does not simply attract the traditional community of established collectors. It attracts new money, institutional interest, and the kind of competitive bidding energy that pushes final hammer prices in a territory that previous generations of numismatists would have considered impossible. The human stories surrounding the 1988 P quarter are perhaps the most compelling element of its legend, because behind every extraordinary numismatic discovery is a person whose life was changed in an instant by the simple act of paying attention. There are documented accounts of individuals who inherited shoeboxes of old coins from elderly relatives and, upon having them examined, discovered that what they assumed was a box of trivial pocket change contained examples of coins worth more than their homes. There are stories of dedicated coin roll hunters, those patient, methodical collectors who purchase rolls of circulating quarters directly from banks and examine every single coin under magnification, who pulled a 1988 P quarter from a roll and immediately recognized, with a jolt of electricity that they describe as physically overwhelming, that something about this particular coin was profoundly different from its neighbors. These are not fairy tales. These are the documented, verified experiences of real people who were rewarded for their curiosity, their patience, and their willingness to look more carefully at the world than most people do. And the extraordinary truth, the truth that should make every single person watching this video reach for the nearest coin jar the moment this episode ends, is that not all of the remarkable 1988 P quarter varieties have been found. The numismatic community operates on the well-established understanding that the total population of known examples for any given era variety represents only a fraction of the coins that were actually minted with that era, because the vast majority of those coins entered circulation and have never been recovered, examined, or identified. They are out there, right now, in circulation, in collections, in the drawers of people who have never once thought to look twice at a quarter. The 1988 P quarter, with its $78 million ceiling, is the grand finale of today's episode, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what American quarter coinage can become when the minting process goes magnificently, unexpectedly, historically wrong. It is a coin that embodies everything that makes numismatics one of the most thrilling pursuits in the world. The intersection of history, artistry, industrial accident, and a timeless human hunger for discovery. As you walk away from this video today, I want you to carry one thought with you, a thought that has the power to change your life if you let it. The next coin you hold in your hand could be the one. It could be the 1988 P quarter that nobody has ever properly examined. It could be sitting in your car right now, or in a jar on your kitchen counter, or tucked inside a wallet that hasn't been fully emptied in years. The only difference between the person who finds it and the person who spends it is attention. And today, you have the attention. Go look, go check, and never, ever underestimate the power of a quarter.